Yesterday we looked at fractions on a number line and using fraction bars. Today we're going to compare fractions and solve word problems involving fractions. So I wanted to review from our fractions unit on some of the ways we can remember how to compare them. So when we're looking at unit fractions, and just to remind you, a unit fraction has a 1 as the numerator, and the denominator can be anything. When you compare unit fractions, such as 1/2 compared to 1/4, the smaller the denominator, remember D for down, the larger the fraction. So 1/2 of a cookie is going to be greater than 1/4. You always have to think, how many people am I sharing this with? If it's only 2, which would be your denominator, okay, half would be greater. If there's more pieces, the pieces are going to get smaller because the whole stays the same. Another way to remember how to compare fractions is that when fractions have the same numerator, the same top number, like these fractions, 3/4, 3/6, 3/8, 3/2, etc., the smaller the denominator, the larger the fraction. So looking at 3/4 compared to 3/6, well, 4 is a smaller number than 6, but when you think of fourths as pieces of a whole, they're going to be greater than 6, because once you divide it up into more pieces, the pieces have to get smaller. So this is the same as the unit fractions. So unit fractions have the same numerator. So do these fractions, whether it's a 3, a 4, a 5, a 6, whatever it is. If they're the same, the rule holds the same. The smaller the denominator, the larger the fraction, because the more pieces you have, the smaller the pieces are going to be, so you're not going to get as much. Now here's where it gets a little trickier. When fractions have the same denominator, but a different numerator, such as 3/4, 4/4, 5/4, 6/4, 1/4, the greater the numerator, the greater the fraction. So the pieces are the same size, right? Look at the example. If I have 1/4 of a cookie, or 3/4 of a cookie, 3 is greater than 1. So obviously 3/4 would be greater than 1/4, or you could read it as 1/4 is less than 3/4. Now try to remember those rules, but you also can use a number line to compare fractions. You can use fraction strips or bars. You can also draw a picture like I did here for examples, with circles if you want, or rectangles. So get your scratch paper out to help you. So let's look at some fractions and let's compare them. Think of the greater gator eats the bigger fraction. So I'm going to start with 2/2 and 2/3. So now I know the denominator is different, right? But the numerator's the same. So we're going to go back to that. It has the same numerator, but the smaller the denominator, the larger the fraction. So my denominator is 2 here. My denominator is 3 here. So 2/2 is going to be greater than 2/3. 2/2 is 1 whole, right? Because 2 divided by 2 is 1. 2/2 is really 1 whole. So a whole is going to, if I get a whole cookie versus 2/3 of a cookie, I'm lucky. Okay, let's look at the next one. 4/6 compared to 5/6. Now we have the same denominator. They're both 6. So now whatever the numerator is, the greater the numerator, the greater the fraction. So the greater gators can rather have 5/6 of a cookie than 4/6, because it wants more. Okay, here's another one. 5/6 compared to 5/3. So we have the same numerator just like we did up here, but the denominators are different. So it's just like a unit fraction. When the numerator is the same, if the denominator is smaller, the fraction's actually larger. Thirds are going to be bigger than sixths because you're dividing with more people then, right? You have to take that same pizza. Now you have to divide it with 6 people versus only 3. Okay, 5/8 compared to 3/8. Now we have the same denominator, the same equal pieces. So 5 is greater than 3. I'd rather have 5/8 of a pizza if I'm really hungry versus only 3/8. And so would that greater gator. And then the next one here, 4/4 compared to 6/6. Well, 4 divided by 4 is the same as 1 whole. 6 divided by 6 is 1. They're both the same, so you would do an equal sign. Now what about this? This one's kind of tricky. 8/1 compared to 12/1. If you think of this line as a division sign, which it is, how many ones are in 8? I hope you said 8. How many ones are in 12? I hope you said 12. So that's just another way of writing the number 12 or the number 8. And 12 is greater than 8. I'd rather have $12 than $8 because it's greater, it's more. Here's Puzzle Penguin again. Dear math students, today my teacher asked me to compare 3/7 and 3/9 and to explain my thinking in words. I wrote 3/7 is equal to 3/9. My thinking is that both fractions have 3 unit fractions, so they must be equal. Is my work correct? If not, please correct my work and tell me what I did wrong. How do you know my answer is wrong? Your friend, Puzzle Penguin. So let's think about that. He's saying that they both have 3 unit fractions because the numerator's the same, but the denominator is different. So 7ths compared to 9ths, you're going to have more. 3/7 is actually going to be greater. So Puzzle Penguin, I hate to tell you, no, you are wrong. Once again, 3/7 is greater than 3/9, right? And the reason is the smaller the denominator, so we should say when fractions have the same numerator, right? When fractions have the same numerator, the smaller the denominator, the greater the fraction. Because now you're sharing with less people, so you have bigger pieces. All right, so we'll look at another couple problems. This time we're going to solve word problems using the same skills. They're just real world problems. Rosa buys 3/4 pound of cheddar cheese. Lucy buys 3/8 pound of goat cheese. Who buys more cheese? And explain your thinking. So really, you're just comparing. You could write it out like this: 3/4 compared to 3/8. Who's going to have more? If Rosa buys 3/4 or Lucy buys 3/8, we've got the same numerator again. The denominators are different. 4ths are going to be greater than 8ths because you're sharing with less people and the pieces are bigger. If you're not sure, draw a picture. I'm going to divide this one into 4ths, this one into 8ths. 3/4, 1, 2, 3 is almost the whole thing. 3/8 is not almost the whole thing. You can tell this one is greater. So therefore, I know it says who buys more cheese? Rosa buys more cheese. Let's look at another one. Lester walks 3/4 of a mile to school. Bert said that he walks farther because he walks 6/8 of a mile to school. Is his statement correct? Well, this is tough because they have different numerators and different denominators. So let's draw a picture. We have 3/4 compared to 6/8. So you could divide it up, this one into 4ths, this one into 8ths. Here's my 3/4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's my 6/8. Uh-oh. What do you notice? If you're not sure, you can't see it there. 3/4 is the same or equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6/8. They're the same distance. They're equal. So you would have to say that, is his statement correct? No. They walk the same distance. Silly Bert. All right, one more. Rusty painted 5/6 of a mural for the school hallway. Has he painted more than half of the mural? Explain your answer. Well, if he's done 5/6 and we're comparing it to a half, again, different numerators and denominators. It is helpful to use something like this. Compare 1/2 to 5/6. Here's a half. Let's see where 5/6 is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5/6 is definitely greater than 1/2. So, has he painted more than half of the mural? Yes. 5/6 is greater. If that was tricky for you, you could divide this into 6. Do your peace sign first, which gives you thirds. Divide your thirds in half to get your 6. Here's my half. And then I could do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I can really visually see 5/6 is greater than 1/2. Now you will do the review lesson for May 8th on Think Central. Be sure to have scratch paper and a pencil and turn in your assignment when completed.